January 31st, 2025. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. It looked like it was a push up, kind of this choppy sideways move, and then a sell-off, very gradual sell-off. It was, I put the lines back, it was kind of a tricky day to trade because I didn't find very many entries and very many setups. I only marked a total of 3. I did take one, but in hindsight, and at the time I thought it was a good trade because I think this happened closer to the end of the day. And after watching all of this price action, my brain was probably a little fried and exhausted. The trouble with today's trading was there were a lot of first entries, maybe a couple second entries, but they all failed to meet the requirement of being a good setup, probably most likely for bad signal bars. The EMA really wasn't helping because prices were moving above and below. And I have these big channels drawn, but these were more established after a lot of the move has been made because they were hard to find in real time, to find these piecemeal channels, to find something reliable. And even in the consolidation areas, they didn't feel very safe. So there weren't very many trades and not much to discuss today. So I'm going to go through it rather quickly. I did take one trade, as I said, and although it was profitable, I don't think it was a good, clean setup. There's only one piece of economic data, or one-time economic data came out, which is around 5:30 Pacific Standard, which is about right here. There's the core PCE price index and the unemployment cost index, which didn't really move the market. So other than that, there wasn't really other news. Pre-market, the market shot up, kind of moved in this consolidated sideways action, hit here, and then started opening and going. So I didn't find this yellow up channel until about right here where I drew and connected these and then dragged it over to here. And then the top side, it was actually evolving as time went. But as I said, in real time, it wasn't the easiest to find these big channels. So you're playing a lot of these small choppy channels. And even then, a lot of these smaller channels that I drew didn't necessarily fit very clean. So this is on the open. You do have a second entry short here. It's too early to declare that this is a range because you only have 2 confirmations. It is a break of this orange up channel, test the high, but that isn't enough information to justify taking a short right here. And then, okay, it hits a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Again, you don't really have enough information to justify that this is in a trading range just yet. And again, this yellow up channel doesn't exist yet. So you see this first entry, second entry. I'm not even thinking of going long here off a very sketchy looking signal bar. But when prices continue moving up, you do have an established new low. It's a first entry short pullback. You technically have a second entry short here, but it's not a good signal bar above the EMA. EMA is flattening. You could argue that at this point you do have this trading range, but it just doesn't feel very trustworthy yet because it's looking like it's making higher highs every time. When prices move up, I find this orange up channel break, and I thought there was a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. The second entry long is a smaller signal bar to break this orange up channel, so I'm expecting a test of the high. It is a bounce off the EMA, which has been kind of respected at this point because in real time you only see this, and it's already breaking out the pre-market highs. So you're thinking this could be a breakout pullback, but the breakout here dwelled for so long. I'm expecting probably another move up, enough for a scalp. You don't know that this big green candle is going to show up. But then it continues moving. You have a second entry short here, but it's not safe. It's too far from the EMA. You don't really have this purple up channel drawn yet. Again, it comes later. A lot of these channels that I drew today, they all kind of were established a little bit later when more price action has happened, and it didn't really help in real time. So that kind of made the day, that contributed to the difficulty today. So then it looks like you have 2 legs down. So it's like a first entry long, pull back, second entry long. It's below the EMA, not a good signal bar. Follow through is nice, but I wanted this one to have at least stayed above the EMA and be green for me to even get ready to jump on this candle, but it didn't. Once this candle closed, I wasn't really feeling it. I was looking for a higher low, which you kind of get right here technically. It never broke above. So I didn't really count this as the higher low. This is the better higher low when it broke above. By this time, you're too close to the local high of day. So it's making high of days on this blue line. And so I didn't really feel confident taking a trade to scalp out, even if you're scalping out 1 point, there's technically enough room. Well, actually, there's just exactly four ticks. So you'd be asking for a press and above. So didn't really like that. You have a new high here. It's a first entry long pullback. Technically, the second entry long's formed here. There's a better second entry long, but I did have this purple up channel kind of loosely drawn because I just had one touch, two touch. This is the third touch. By the time the third touch happens, the trade's already moved, so I couldn't really trust it as a key entry point. You could argue there's a smaller channel here, break and test the low, but it's below the EMA. I wasn't really thinking that was a great trade. But then you do have a higher low here, but there's, again, you're running into the issue of pressing into the high a day. So I left that one alone. It's just kind of choppy noise. It starts to reverse on this yellow or this orange down channel. At this point, I do have this loose yellow up channel, and I wasn't sure if there was an overshoot here. Then it looked like there was an overshoot. Then I wasn't sure if there was an overshoot here. So I wasn't too keen on taking an entry long just yet, especially when it broke below the EMA here. And I was watching for a reaction down here at the lows of this yellow up channel. And you don't really get there until right here. So I'm watching this price action move down. It's just very choppy. You have a new low, first entry short, technically a second entry short here. I had this orange down channel, so I was thinking there's a key entry point, 4-touch rejection, good solid close. The problem that I had was it's going to run into a potential bounce point on the low of this candle, as well as a bounce off this yellow up channel support. So this could be or could not be a breakout. It could have easily have been up here, in which case this could hit and then bounce back up. So I didn't really think of a good reason to take this trade. If you're more aggressive, you probably could have gotten it for at least a 1-point scalp. 2 points is a little more of a press. Price then broke out of this orange up channel, test the low, and it comes back in this really choppy sideways, choppy but bullish sideways action. You have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. This is a bad signal bar to go short. Makes a triple test. You don't know that this big candle is going to show up, but in real time when you're seeing this, or when I'm seeing it, I'm thinking, okay, is there a second entry short? I don't like the follow through. I'm not ready to take a short now because it closed above the halfway point. And then when this one flushes down, now there's just no way to enter that. You can see it as a visual first entry, second entry. This green up channel isn't super firm yet because you don't have a clean channel yet. You have something like this. So you have a channel that's developing. I'm looking at a failure, but the failure kind of formed in the middle of the EMA, where the EMA is cutting right through. If the EMA had cut below and I had a first entry short, second entry short failure with the EMA below, that's a more safer trade. So then I'm just looking for a higher low. You get a higher low here, but you don't know it's going to be a higher low till this candle shows up. Then I feel like the trade is already run away without me. I'm not chasing it, especially after I think this might be the channel now. I'd be running into this high. Of course, it moves up. That's when I actually drag this out a little bit like so. It starts to reverse. You do have a second entry long here, new high, first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but I saw it as one leg, pull back, second leg, no good signal bar to go long on. It looks like it's 2 legs down. Below the EMA, it's a little confusing. I'm not sure this green up channel is going to break and test the highs anymore, and then it drops. Then it drops, it reverses. I do see a new low here. It's a first entry short, second entry short. The second entry short I thought was a possible trade because after the break of this green down channel, you have 2 legs up, which could also be seen as one big leg. So something more like this at the time. Break, test new high. I wanted this signal bar to close lower, but I did like that it was below the EMA. So this is a possible trade if you're a little more aggressive. The risk on it is 9 ticks, which is small considering what was going on today. Later, after it moved down, I was thinking actually it might be all part of one leg. So after this break, I was expecting to test the highs of this orange, and it did, but I didn't like that it broke above the EMA. Closed, have a higher low here, but break of this orange up channel, test the new high. I think the uptrend here has potentially played out. This still needs to test the low, and this is like its first attempt. This could be a second attempt. So I saw this. I didn't really like it, was too keen on the idea that it was right at the EMA. Then you get a higher low here, lower high here. Lower high kind of presses down. This is a possible trade here. I don't need to do that. Go ahead and get rid of these. Lower high is possible trade here. Candle's kind of big. I'm not too sure. Just kind of let it slide, but I think there was a possible trade here. Prices start moving down. I saw another setup here. It depends on how much you trust this yellow down channel because it is a new low. First entry short, pullback, hidden second entry short. So you'd have to take it on the engulfing. I would not take it after the close of here because it's making a new localized low. So it'd be very risky in my opinion, especially on a 5.5 22 tick candle, which is quite large because your stop would even be even higher up here to be ensure you're safe. So it looked good at the time, debating it, but once it closed, I kind of abandoned all hope. Then prices moved down. And reverses on this green up channel. Again, you have a second entry short here, but it's above the EMA, nothing I particularly like. This red larger channel doesn't exist yet, so I'm playing these piecemeal yellow channels, which I don't have that much confidence in because this is actually potentially here, and you might have an overshoot here, test of the low. I wasn't sure. It just wasn't fitting super nicely. And prices are chopping sideways. First entry long, second entry long. Kind of moves back down. It's a little choppy. EMA is somewhat being respected, somewhat not. Kind of making these double bottoms, matching bottoms. So it negates, you have first entry short here. You could say it's a second entry short, but I reset the count here because it made a double bottom. Plus it's above the EMA. I'm just not feeling it. There's a lower high here, but again, now you're pushing into potential resistance here. But then prices are continuing to move down, and I'm just kind of sitting and waiting. Eventually it breaks out of this yellow down channel, kind of reverses up. It's just getting noisy. So it's a new low. Technically, you have a first entry short here, pushes up. You have a second entry short technically here, but it pushes up and comes back down. Broke out of this yellow orange up channel, reverses. I also saw it as potentially one big leg. And let's just say I'm from here. I'm looking back. Clearly, there's a downtrend going on, but there's these piecemeal channels, which are making it a little confusing for me. Prices move, breaks out of the green, starts to reverse back up. You have a first entry short. Technically, you have a first entry short here, but you can see there's one big move, first entry short. Pull back, you have a second entry short. I would not have known to go on to jump on this because this isn't a good signal bar. The follow-up trigger bar is nice, except you're going to potentially run into the EMA now. I was playing with the idea that there's a yellow up channel, so you're going to run into a potential double resistance of the EMA and the support of this yellow up channel. That's exactly kind of what happens. It hits here and then reverses back up. If you had a one tick above, you might have gotten stopped out here. At this point, I'm not sure. I'm trying to encapsulate this whole move down. So I have this loose dotted red channel that's transparent, but I can't really trust it because it only had two confirmations and then maybe a third one way down here. The bottom side does have three confirmations, so it's kind of a guideline, but not a true key entry point that I trust. So then prices continue moving down. It just gets spindly with these doji candles. It's like a first entry long pullback, second entry long. I wouldn't go long here, considering the EMA is right here. This just looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. You have a first entry long failure, but again, you're running into a potential support area. This is the low of day. Flushes down, reverses. You have first entry short, but I kind of reset the count after I saw this big move up. So I consider this a first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short, good signal bar. I don't like this above the EMA. I had this drawn like this initially, so it could be a test of the high. But as prices evolved, I thought there's actually maybe two legs, and this is just the first leg. So I was watching here, expecting another push up to the highs, and it did, but they didn't offer me a really clean second entry anywhere. Kind of reverses up. At this point, I do trust my red down channel a little bit more now because I'm getting good confirmations on both the top side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if you consider it, and four touches, almost four touches on the bottom. So I'm looking for a first entry long. I'm looking for a failed second entry long. You don't get that. You get a failed second entry long way, way down here. But if you're thinking first entry long, second entry long failure, that's a good thinking, except this green down channel does have to test the low, but it's hitting this area of support, this clear area of support. So yes, there might be enough room for a scalp, but I'm just not super sure. course, it does flush down. Kind of chop sideways. You get this really weird, not really weird, but really noisy sideways action. Kind of chops. I thought I was in a resistance area here, and this is the where I take my one and only trade. And even in hindsight, I don't think it was a good trade, good setup. It was risky. It's all this. So in real time, I'm seeing this potential top of the range, and this is a failed breakout. I'm thinking a failed breakout. Later, I dragged it up to here, but I kept this line here. So I have a new low. First entry short, second entry short. Second entry short has a failure. Technically, you can take the count from here, the new low. First entry short, second entry short, count resets. First entry short, second entry short, second entry short, failure. First entry long, second entry long. So let me just go ahead, say this is also a failed second entry short. As this was closing, I was watching the ticks count down, and I said, okay, it broke above. I think I like this trade. And it closed here. I decided to enter on the next candle. So it broke below, and then I put my entry here. As soon as it broke above this blue line, I thought, okay, if it breaks above this blue line, it's going to match this. And it actually went 2 ticks up. I dropped my order in 1 tick above this guy, got filled, immediately got my profit target because it was chopping around and flushed way up. And I moved my runner from break even, actually from down here up to 1 point above break even, and I got stopped out, which is okay. In hindsight, I should have just taken the whole position off because thinking I'm going to get a runner is essentially saying I'm picking the bottom. I'm expecting this gigantic sell-off to reverse to give me some kind of runner. And considering the time of day, what this was looking like, I should have just taken the whole position off. Well, lesson learned. Prices then move down. You have a new high. First entry long, pullback. Second entry long. Second entry long. I like that it broke below and pushed up, but I don't like that it's a doji. It might be in a range, so it was a little confusing. I was just kind of, to be honest, mentally exhausted from watching this price action all day. And when I took this kind of more of an impulsive trade, I knew I need to be extra careful considering it's the last day of the week, last day of the month, and I was profitable this week and today. So I didn't want to give anything back and kind of be depressed. I gave back profits. So I saw it, wasn't sure, better to leave it alone. That's what I did. It chops in this range. You do have second entries, but just nothing feels safe. And it kind of moves into the close. So I did have this nice up channel push, nice push back down. So I decided to just kind of sit on my hands and watch it into the close. So it's kind of how I saw the charts today. Not the cleanest. I mean, price action was moving, but it didn't provide very many setups. So hopefully that was helpful.